Hi, I'm Rowland Salley, and I'm talking with David Ward today on the record, musicians on the record. I'm out in California, he's in Maine, so here's a little thing. If I was in San Diego and you was in Portland, Maine, fly to you like stock and bone through hail and falling rain, over the mountains and down in the valleys, trying to get to each other. Don't take us but a few minutes to get to one another.
This is huge, musicians on the record. Bring it on.
Where do you want your music to go, Rowland? Obviously, you guys are still playing. You were just here in Portland, Maine. I'm bummed that I missed you guys. But what's coming up, or where do you want it to go?
You know, of course, when we play, we have a certain, we're in a certain echelon, let's say, of business. It would always be great to increase that. We're grateful for what we have at the moment. When people come to, you know, if we play an 1,100 seater and we go out there and there's you know 1,099 people there, we're just as happy as can be. You know, grateful for that. We just want to keep making good music. I don't think we're worried about the crowd that much. We just feel that because we've got a good fan base, and we're lucky and grateful for it. We just want to keep making the best music we can, and whatever that turns into, up or down, is at least we've done the best that we can. I don't think any of us are going to try to do any bungee jumping off the Empire State Building to try to turn heads. We're just going to keep making good music as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah. For you in the past or any current, any dealing with nerves before a show? And if so, how do you deal with it, or how did you deal with it if you had that in the past?
Nerves before the show?
Yeah.
Oh. It's been a long time since I felt anything but let me at 'em, you know, kind of a feel. It's been a long time. The first time I was really nervous was when my group in Wisconsin opened 3 shows for Jimi Hendrix, because there were about 50,000 people at the first show, and you want to talk about petrified.
I bet.
I remember how I moved my arms and legs to get on stage, but I did, and I was really, really just like, for the whole. Here's what happened. For the first 3 songs of that set, Hendrix's equipment was behind us, and we were in front of him, and when we were done, they would clear our stuff and then pull the curtain, and his stuff would be there. So we had this one little acoustic part of the song. It went way down quiet, and then the band kind of came in, and our lead guy was delivering this acoustic part. So I'm in the wings waiting to come in, you know, and be all theatrical about it and stuff. Suddenly I hear this. What's going on? And I go back and I look around behind, and it's Mitch Mitchell, and he's taking a drum solo. He has no idea that there's a band on stage in front, and he's back there. He's practicing his drums, but it was like, you know, like Charlie Brown. It was like a blur, and there's sticks flying out here, the leg over here, arm here, whack, 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 just cymbals flying and stuff. And it's destroying our little quiet part out in front. Just at that moment, I see my girlfriend, who's a big girl from New York. She's coming from the other side of the stage. She's sprinting like this, and it's like in slow motion. She's like, she gets about 10 feet from Mitch Mitchell, launches herself, grabs him around the neck, hauls him off the drums, and just proceeds to beat the crap out of him.
Oh my God.
My boyfriend's out there. Somehow that broke the tension. I got over my nervousness right there.
Sure. Yeah, that was it.
What?
He had no idea another band was even on stage.
Yeah, so he's like, prepare to die, you little limey. Bam, bam. You know?
That's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, so incredible story with Mitch Mitchell. Tell me about your experience with Jimi Hendrix. How did you connect with him?
You know, you would have seen him in the Monterey thing, you know, and all the footage and the TV stuff, and listened to his records and seen photographs of him and stuff. But when you see him in person, coming down the hallway with with orange silk pants, a purple silk shirt, a fuchsia purple jacket, and a lime green, scarf around his head, carrying a guitar with a cigarette hanging out of his lip. Hey man, cool, how's it going? It's just like, wow. He was a bigger than life, and what a musician, what a guitar player. Live, to watch him play was just. It's one thing to see footage of it, but to actually see him play was unbelievable. And he was, I remember he had that cigarette dangling in the back of his corner of his mouth, and he's walking through the backstage area, and one of the stage hands that worked at the theater and said, "Oh, excuse me, there's no smoking back here. You have to put that cigarette out." He goes, "Hey man, it's part of my act." Oh, it's just pretty cool,
Yeah. You're not going to stop. You're not going to stop Jimmy from doing that, right?
At the time, though, I think he was not real happy with the way his record company and some of his business stuff was going, and he was trying really hard to move into some different things. And I wish he'd been able to, because. Oh, can you imagine if he'd been around all these years and was still out there playing today? What he would have? I can only imagine what he would have contributed.
Right. Yeah, unbelievable artist.
Yeah, and that goes for how long is that list? So many people.
Exactly. Yeah. Sadly, tragically, whether drugs or otherwise, we've lost a lot of people. Right. So I also want to talk about. Rowland, your art, you're not only just the bass player in the band, you're doing some incredible art. You also have a documentary film, Why the Artist Creates. Can we talk about your passion for art and how that also came about?
I can't remember how it started, because it's always been, I've always loved to draw. I remember being about 5 years old and it being Thanksgiving at my grandparents' house, and all the family was there, and there was a little kind of passageway between down along their big dining room table where everybody sat, and they'd come from the kitchen and walk down this way. But I'd be right on the floor in the pathway drawing pictures. People would be stepping over me, and all I can say is I can remember drawing a picture of a mailbox and looking at it and saying, "Hey, I like what I did. I like that mailbox." And so I was really just doing it for myself, I wasn't trying to, and I never really, even now I don't think I paint or draw with the idea that it's going to impress anybody. It's just like, can I get this? Can I make this thing happen the way I want it to happen? So it's kind of just it's really a nice thing to be able to do it, because it's me and me, right? And I'm not in that collective situation of playing music, and it's a nice interlude or break or counterbalancing element to where I can do anything I want. If I want to paint a tree yellow, I can make it yellow. If I didn't like it, I can change it to any color. I want to use any color, do any kind of composition, pick any subject. It's freedom for me. It's kind of personal freedom. And I've always loved drawing. And if you can draw, folks, you can paint. It's the next step.
Yeah. And with your documentary too, Why the Artist Creates, this was, it won a National Silver Telly Award and was nominated for an Emmy. That must have felt nice. There's a couple in Cleveland, Bob and Luann Bowl-Becker are the ones who made that, and they contacted me because they're documentary filmmakers. They made
a few nice documentaries on baseball players, kind of like what you're doing now, only with baseball players that people haven't really become deeply aware of, or extensively aware of. Kind of interesting. They did a good one on urban sprawl, which is kind of, real interesting. All these topics are great. They're very interesting, very cool documentary people, and they contacted me. Luann contacted me and said, we want to make a video of why the artist creates. Now, I'm not sure I've answered that question particularly in that documentary yet, because I don't know if there is any one given answer for why an artist creates. For me, it's just to satisfy my own investigative potential as to get colors that work together, and stuff. I love it. I always have.
Well, and that sounds like a big part of the reason right there is just because you love it and it makes you happy. What more reason do you need, right? So.
Yeah. If you love to do something, you're most likely going to get around to it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The way that we got connected here, I think, is a pretty fun story. My friend Pete Smith and Goodwin Cobb, they own a pet supply store in Portland, Maine called Uncommon Paws, uncommonpaws.com. And you walked in while you were in Portland, Maine, touring with Chris, and you and Pete got to talking, and somehow it connected with the show. And so I have a question from Pete, if you're willing. I gave him a question that obviously your love of dogs, and I have a dog as well, but Woody is your dog.
He's my dog.
Yeah. So what role has Woody played in your life, and any kind of inspiration with music with Woody?
As a musician, traveling musician, we go out on the road a lot. So there's periods of time when we're in and out of our homes, and that's one of those double-bladed axes. Of course, you need to go out and work, and you want to go out and work, but it also, leaves a vacancy, back at your house. So there's that, which is felt for certain. And so my partner, Lita, she is a dog lover. She of course, I had a dog when I was a kid, but she's been a nonstop dog lover, for her whole life. And she said to me one day, maybe we can get a dog. I said, well, I'm going to be gone, and you come out and see me, on the road and stuff. There's going to be a lot of traveling. And she goes, well, let's get a little dog. Let's get a lunch bucket dog, and we can carry him right on the plane. I started thinking about it, and I was kind of going, I don't know. And she said it would really help when you go away on the road, because it gets kind of lonesome around here, and I'd like to have a little buddy, And next thing, she says, take a look at this. She flips open the laptop, and there's a picture of this little doggy there, and I said, yeah. She said, he's going to be down at the pet store on Saturday with his brother and sisters. They're giving him away. They've rescued him out of the desert. And can we just go look? We know what that leads to, right?
Right, exactly.
So we went down there, and there were 5 little puppies in this litter, and they named them all after cheeses. There was Monty, after Monty, there was Rico and Colby, and I forget the other ones. But Monty was the one that we really hooked up with. Of course, we couldn't call him Monty, so we changed his name to Woody. But we brought him home, and he walked in the door. And first thing he did is take a dump right on the floor, mark the territory. And but what a great little guy he is. He's great. He's been great, and he's a great companion for when I'm not here. He will let you know religiously if anybody's around. He's very vocal about that, and I'm surprised he hasn't chimed in already. But he changed. When you get a dog, it changes your life. I mean, you get into a whole thing with him. He's another person.
You bet. You bet. Yeah.
Like Alexander the Great, the Russian guy. One of his famous quotes is, "More I see of men, the more I like my dog.
They're definitely part of the family, aren't they? No question. Yeah. And maybe, sorry, go ahead.
So Woody's 10 pounds, right? He's a little guy. He's a cross between a Chihuahua and a Italian Greyhound. So I want to get him, I'm looking for a little, if anybody knows, I'm looking for a little Frisbee that'll fly, that's not going to like seem like, you know, a giant flying saucer to him, something he can manage. So that's how it happened in Pete's place. I was walking around in Portland, Maine, and this is one of those things where, you know, you bump into people and you just kind of hit it off for some reason. I went in there and, you know, he's got his shop it is an unusual boss. The name of the shop. It's an unusual dog shop because he's got a lot of things there you don't see in other places. And I said, hey, would you happen to have a tiny little Frisbee in here that he goes, I don't. He goes, but I know what you're talking about. And we started talking. And he said, I know a fellow named David Ward who you might want to talk to, you know. I mean, I like Pete. And I said, well, let's stay in touch. And he said, okay. And then he didn't tell me about you that day. He told me about you in a subsequent email, you know. And he's hunting for a little Frisbee.
And that's what he said. That's what he said as well, Rowland. He wants to send you a 6-inch disc. So that's what he's working on. He wanted me to make sure to let you know that. Okay.
A 6-inch Frisbee.
6-inch Frisbee. Yes, exactly.
Bring it on. Love to see that.
Yeah. Well, and you know what you're talking about, just even that for an example, but throughout your whole career also, I think, is the power of networking. And you were talking about that earlier with just connecting with people, like when you were in Woodstock and in the studio, and that's how bands came about, and that's how it happened with Chris Isaak as well. That's a pretty powerful thing right there for folks to do. Any words of advice for musicians in networking?
Well, you know, the social media, you know, online networking thing is huge, and it's kind of almost, I mean, it's keeping people glued to their computers a lot these days. A lot, I think anyway. I don't do that too much, but because I remember the days when there was no such thing as a cell phone or a computer, and it was all about getting up off the couch and going somewhere. And the day that I ran into Pete, for instance, it was a day off in Maine, and I wanted to go in. I had to go into the post office actually to do something. So I Ubered into town, went to the post office, and then I said, I would like to walk down and check out the wharf because as a painter, you know, I like to see, especially I love to be around water and where boats are and things. Just it always looks great to me. Every frame is looking great, you know. And on my way back, I walked in, saw this dog shop, and I was thinking about Woody, you know, and there was a lot of dogs, by the way. Portland is a dog town. Yes, it is. Beautiful four-legged friends in Portland. Happened into Pete's place, and we just started talking. Now, that's the kind of thing that happens when you start mixing around with people. And I don't think it can be replaced online. I don't think it can be. I think you really have to keep up your skills. You keep your antenna out, you know, keep your eyes open for interesting people because they're out there. And when you meet somebody face to face, there's no replacing it. When you make a certain kind of connection with somebody, you know, it's about energy. You know, you find a certain kind of energy that's coming out of somebody, and you can relate to it, and then, you know, it sparks conversation, and there's something special about it. And I've found that the coolest things that have happened to me have come from those kind of things where I actually physically went somewhere expecting nothing. And in fact, the less you expect sometimes, the more you fall into in a funny way. Yeah. But there's no replacing it, I don't think, for face-to-face. Go out, get off the couch and go do some sleuthing around and gumshoe your way in and out of different situations. You never know who you're going to meet.
That's right. Yep. I love it, and so glad that we got to connect with this here as well through Pete. Yeah. So thanks to Pete and Gudrun there. So, You know, you seem like a really creative guy, musically, art-wise, songwriting. Can you share a little bit about your creative process and how you go about, even like with something, writing a song, whether Killing the Blues or otherwise? What's your process with that?
Well, you know, there are guys who write a lot of songs, and I don't write a lot of songs. I'm anything but a let's say a professional songwriter, in the sense that, you know, I have a quota or anything like that. I only write when I feel like writing, and again, there's a lot of chance and a lot of luck involved. It's just like going out to meet people. I remember for Killing the Blues, I was feeling really, really, you know, brokenhearted. I was dealing with some pain, you know, over this thing that had happened, where you know, we had to split up. And that night, I was talking to, and I remember her name. Her name was Heidi Blackburn. Heidi, if you're out there. We were sitting at a bar, or I was standing at a bar somewhere. She asked, "Hey, what's been going on?" And I told her what was happening. I said, "Yeah, you know, now I'm in this situation." She said, "I know." She said, "It's just so horrible when you've got to go out and find something that you already had." And that line stuck with me, you know, and that's one of the lines in that song. I think I kind of wrote that song around Killing the Blues, around that line. At least it was a good linchpin, you know, to get a bunch of other lines in there that pertain to what I was feeling at the time.
Right.
There's no process really for me. It's I have to sort of be feeling something. I have to. My songs come from personal, like, experiences and interfaces and emotional stuff. You know, I'm not a real good documentary songwriter. It's most of the stuff that actually happened to me, and then I have to feel strongly about it. And songs come when I least expect them, and you can miss a song by not paying attention to the little things, you know. So I just try to pay attention, and I find it hard to write a song that I don't like. I mean, I don't know how people do that. I have a friend who lives up the street. He goes, you know, and he's a songwriter. He goes, "I hate to collaborate." He said, "I just hate it." He goes, "Every time I hear a song that's a collaboration, I can always tell that you got this part was done by this guy, and this part was done by you. I can always tell the patchwork quilt aspect of it," which is, I mean, I don't know if that's valid or not, because, you know, there's millions of great collaborations, but I don't mind collaborating in certain situations when you know, somebody's not trying to force anything, when there's two people who are able and willing to sort of let things happen, you know, and including me. No, I couldn't say there's a process. I get my process is no process.
Right. Yeah. So, but I love it. It's not forced. It's not formulaic. It sounds like it's from the heart. It's from your experience, and you got to feel it for it to come out. Is there anything you're working on now?
I have a few songs. Yeah, I am going to make another record soon of some stuff. There's a lot of songs, or a number of songs, that need to be finalized and put over. But, you know, I find that hard to do too. And of course, that's the struggle. You know, it's, okay, you've done a record, or you've written some songs now. Are you going to do it again, and when? You know, people ask that question. I remember Shawn Colvin and I were talking not long ago, and she said, "Yeah, this last record I just did, she practically killed me." She said, "I just couldn't get the songs out, you know." And
Amazing.
I know what that feels like, because you're under the gun. You've got a deadline, and, you know, sometimes it works for people and sometimes it doesn't. You know, I'm pretty good friends with John Prine, and we traveled together a lot. And we were talking one night on the bus, and I sung one of his songs, and I said, "How long did it take you to write that song?" He goes, 12 years. Oh, right on, man. He was obviously, I wasn't.
Yeah, John's human too, that, right? Yeah. Yeah, and he's written some incredible songs as well, no question. Right.
And you know, painting's the same way. You just have to pay attention. With painting, I'll be driving along and I'll throw my glance off on the side of the road and catch a broken red against some kind of, you know, impossible gray, and I'll stop the car. I just have to check it out and circle it and see if there's a composition there, and but it's just, again, it's because for some reason I looked to the left at that moment, and there it was. But once I see something, if I want to paint it, it's like the game's on.
Can you tell us about your beautiful guitar and bass here, and if you
this bass, this is an old, this is a 1961 Precision bass that used to belong to a friend of mine named Debbie Green, who is she was married to Eric Anderson, the folk singer, for some years, and she's a great musician herself, and just a great person. And we were in a band in Woodstock with Happy and Artie Traum at one point in the 70s, in 72 or something. And we played in New York City, and I had a fabulous old 1960 Fender jazz bass that we'd finished our show, and we went to deliver the keys we'd stay at someone's apartment in the village, and we went to deliver the keys back to the place, and we were only out of the car, classic story, for maybe 28 seconds. And when I came back, my bass was gone.
Oh no.
New York City has a way of showing you the ropes. And that bass was gone, and it was that bass, every note on that bass was a symphony. It was one of those instruments, and of course it disappeared and evaporated, and who knows where it is now. But I looked all over for months for a replacement, and Debbie said, I've got an old Precision you can try. You can borrow it until you do find one. So I borrowed this bass, actually, and had it for a while, and I fell in love with it because it was as good as my jazz bass, and but I couldn't find anything that was anywhere near the two of them, and I went through a number of basses, and finally I had to just give it back to them and say, I can't keep this forever, it's your bass. And then, of course, she went her way and I went my way, and probably 30 years later, not that long ago, I was talking to somebody who I'd known from another time in my life. She was a real estate agent, up in Marin County in California, and started talking about basses, and Debbie Green's name came up, and I said, yeah, she had the greatest bass way back in the day, and she said, she's selling that bass right now. I said, what? And I called her up. I said, Debbie. She said, I'm so glad you called. She goes, because I was afraid I was going to have to throw this bass out into the world of unknowns. People, she said, I'd love you to have it. So I got it back, and here it is. And I use this in the studio all the time. This bass is it's a problem solver when it comes to playing in the studio. If you can see, it ain't no pretty bird, but it sounds fabulous. This bass, great bass, and so
I think it's beautiful.
In good hands, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie.
This guitar is an old Gibson J35 from back in the day. It's 1938, and the reason Gibson named their guitars like J35s and J45s is because that's how much they cost when they first came out.
Thank you, Rowland Salley, for being on Musicians on the Record.
You're so welcome.